fishing. People, when you're in the mood, let's go fishing. Well, it's just me and you. Head on down to the fishing hole. Grab your hat, get your pole. Let's go fishing when you're in the mood.
Canadian Sportfishing has been brought to you in part by Rapala, premium fishing gear crafted from experience. Yamaha, conquer outdoors. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922. Bait to Go, the most versatile and portable bait container for anglers.
I love to fish moving water, especially big moving water that has large areas for any kind of fish to move onto the feed and then to move back into the current. Unlike lakes, where there are certain populations of fish that live in certain areas, when you're fishing big rivers, fish constantly move in and out with the flow. So there's always a new supply of fish. Look at this little guy. He went forward and look how he got clipped. We don't want to hurt him. Look, this guy's got the potential of being a 5-pounder. Here, you beautiful thing. We're gonna let him go. Pop him in the water, boom. You know, one thing I like fishing the Great Lakes, because a lot of the Great Lakes have really clear water. So even here, if you look down, you can actually see the vegetation and the rocks on the bottom, probably as deep as about 10, 12 feet. That's where it's critical that you match the color of the bait fish that the fish are feeding on. Some species of fish, like walleye, love fast water, so they'll hold right in the deepest current and feed there. But other fish, like bass, pike, and even muskie, prefer to stay in some of the calmer water where there's some shelter and there's a variety of rocks and weeds. Amount of current, depth of water, and certain structure are all key ingredients when I'm looking for certain species of fish in very large rivers. Feisty smallmouths. I think these are smallmouth in training. That's what they are. They're learning to feed. I like this pattern though. Just cranking these little rocks and weeds. I call them contact points. They're really like fish magnets. You know, it's so peaceful out here and quiet. There's a few boats fishing in the same area because they're also on to fish. And that's because the weather's so nice today. So you can see a boat off there, off that contact point. I got a boat over here in front of me.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fish.
I heard that those guys on TV do this. Extend your arm out as far as you can. Now they're collecting them. We're not supposed to release the gobies. It's a nice goby. It's a nice goby.
He's giving me.
This goby came all the way from the Caspian Sea for the people to catch them. And then you have to take it over there because they're doing a goby pile. Well, aren't you going to weigh it? You got to take it in. Yeah, go with the rod. Run down.
Okay.
There, you got gloves on, you got the thin collar. I got this.
The uniform.
I'm hot in this. You got shoes. Look at my shoes. I got holy shoes on with like stuff and everything.
Yeah, but I like my boots.
I like your boots too. And it's nice that you're representing the RCMP.
We love to support events like this.
They've got people to help the volunteers to do a little bit of supervision. And the fishing doesn't take long. You know, then they're done in like an hour and a half, then they can eat and enjoy the entertainment. So it's really nice to have your support.
It's a wonderful day for
That's
everybody,
awesome.
so appreciate being here.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Closed captioning is brought to you by MD Marine Insurance. Boat insurance made easy.
If I'm looking for large and smallmouth bass, I look for current areas, but a very light current that's away from the main current and that has all the right ingredients for them to feed on bait fish. I also look for boulders and submerged rocky points that come out from a main shoreline, because those are areas where there are current breaks, and in most cases there's structure there because there's a drop in the depth and vegetation growing around it. Those are magnets for fish to feed around. Another little guy. Actually, there's so many small fish here, it's probably because of the conditions, you know. These little guys learn how to feed on these isolated structure and weed spots, and you can see they're really nailing this smash shad. Actually, I'm trying to open this guy's mouth. Isn't he a bright green? Just gorgeous. Gonna just release him very gently into the water. You know, I used to use a net most of the time, but I find that if you don't need to use a net, unless you get a really big fish, you can usually, if you're using a leader that's like a 15 or 20 pound test, and I'm using a fluorocarbon leader about 18 to 20 inches long, because there is a chance of getting some toothy critters here. When you're fishing around these rock piles and the weeds, a lot of times you can get pike. You know, whenever I'm fishing at the front of the boat and I'm casting like I am today, it's very important that I know exactly what's underneath me, because then I can work around it. If you look at this Dragonfly 7, you can see that on one side, I've got the chart. So that dot is actually my boat position, but I'm zoomed in. And this is the actual fish finder. Look at here, see like there's no weeds? And then look at the thick weeds that are coming here. So where I want my cast my crankbait is right on the edge of those weeds. So this is really important. So right now I'm not using it to try to see fish. I'm using it to try to see where the vegetation is in the rock piles that attract the fish. And then I make my casts with my crankbaits accordingly. So I normally don't cast right into the weeds because I know the fish are on the edges. So I cast off to one side and then I let my lure run along it. Same thing with rock piles. If there's a rock pile or a couple of boulders, I don't cast right to the boulders. I overcast them by about 10, 20 feet to make sure that my lure gets down to the right depth, and I go beside it. And usually if there's a fish there, they'll whack it right off the bat. Very aggressive. This is one of the most important tools to have along with the electric. When you're fishing the Great Lakes early in the year, and especially some of the big rivers or close to the big rivers like the St. Lawrence, the Niagara, the Detroit River, even the St. Mary's River that connects Lake Superior to Lake Huron. When the water temperature starts to warm just a little bit, there's a panfish that moves in, and it's called a white bass. And these fish come up by the millions. And usually when you find a pod, you can get a whole bunch of them. Nice hit. I love watching the fight. This is like looking in an aquarium with this clear water. Nice and silver. See, they're a little lethargic, but that's okay. Come on. I think they're liking this bait. Actually, it has rattles in it. I think that's one of the reasons why they're attracted. Not pretty? Beautiful silver. You know, with all the crankbaits that are on the market, sometimes I wonder how people actually decide which one they should be using. For example, today I had really good luck on the smash shad. That's what I'm holding up here in that natural color. But look at these two, how bright they are. They kind of remind me of candy. You know, when you get into the pinks, green, blues, like rainbow colors. Well, there's certain times when you should be using the bright colors, and there's certain times when you should be using these natural, more metallic colors. I find that when you think the fish are feeding on bait fish, like early morning, later in the day, the natural colors, the bright silver and golds, work really well. If you're fishing later in the day when the fish are more lethargic and they probably aren't feeding, using these really funky colors, especially with lures that have rattles inside, is very good. For example, I did well casting this. This is called a scatter crank deep. It'll go down to about 10, 12 feet. It's got that big lip when it actually scatters from side to side, and it's that bright yellow color. So that lure does not look like anything the fish would feed on, but it's ideal to use in the middle of the day. And that was a fish. I love it when they just snap like that, and it feels like a nice smallmouth. Yeah. Oh, look at this. I love the way that guy hit. Just like he was supposed to. Line hits the bottom, lift up. Line hits the bottom, lift up. Guy will go about 3.5 pounds. You know, it's amazing when you change from a crankbait, like that smash and shad, to a jig. A lot of times those fish that give up chasing the crankbait will actually hit I'll see if I can lift this guy. He's pretty heavy. I don't want to break that leader. Yeah, got him. So we don't want to keep him out too long. What I'm going to do for this guy is just extend him out in the net. Because this water's so clear, I could plop him down, but what I'm going to do is be the gentleman. Watch how fast this guy goes. Right there. He's gone.
Go with them. So pair up and enter in.
How are you? Are you having fun?
Yes.
Have you caught any yet?
No.
Okay, you have to think positive. You're going to get a bite any minute. I tell people you're going to get a bite when you least expect it, so you have to expect it. Are you using a minnow or a worm?
Warm.
Okay, we're going to make sure that your worm is wiggly. Look, this won't work so good. No, they don't like the steel part so much. You got to put a little bit of meat. Can we get a worm? Is there a worm in the house? Ooh, they're wiggly and everything. Did you put a whole one or a half a one?
Half.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, we want a jumbo worm. So we're just gonna thread him on here nicely. I don't think he's gonna come off.
He's very good.
Yes, he is, and he's all messed up. He's got all kinds of dirt. So see how he's wiggling? He's doing the little dance. That's what we want. Now you go ahead and drop him right down. I got a feeling you're gonna get a bite. Are you supervising the situation?
Yes.
And is anybody fishing too fast?
No.
There's a speed limit, right, on how fast they reel and stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, do you give them a cautionary thing first? Okay.
Yeah, always caution before ticket.
Yeah, I would say slow down, and you'll catch more fish.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't want to
Absolutely.
speed. It's a Saturday. There's no use rushing.
No.
You're doing a good job.
Yeah, thank you.
In most large rivers that have strong flows, the predominant forage that the bass feed on are bait fish. They can be different species though, and that's really important. If it's the Great Lakes rivers, they could be shad, they could be alewife, they could be different types of minnows. So using the right lure to match those bait fish or the shad that the bass are feeding on is key to getting them to strike. Ooh, that's a nice one. Oh, this is a surprise. Look at this, it's a largemouth. Hopefully it'll stay on. Man, that fish socked it so hard. On a largemouth, the dorsal looks like it's two different fins. See how this one comes down almost to the back, but not quite? On a smallmouth, it doesn't go down that far. So it almost looks like one complete fin. Largemouth, it looks like two dorsal fins. Did he want that? Smash shad, look. He's got the front hook in his mouth, and the back one is just tagged underneath. I'm guessing he's about 3 pounds. He's about 16, 17 inches long. And you can see why they call him a largemouth. He's got a big mouth. So they can inhale a lot of stuff, but one of their favorite things to grab is minnows, bait fish. That's why I'm using that smash shad. Man, that water's so clear. It's gorgeous there. Look at that sheen. Brilliant. Man. Nice. He gave a jump to go away. You know, we're in a quiet bay. The current's not too strong here. Midday, this is kind of a good opportunity to drop in a bait cloud ball. We're only in about 6 to 8 feet of water. For those of you that may not be familiar with these, this is a ball that releases air bubbles, and it's also infused with fish oil. If I smell it, it actually smells, it reminds me like of roe bags when I'm steelhead fishing. But you can also see, if you look close up, there's some sparkly stuff in it. That's bioflake. And when it hits the water, that bioflake is released along with the bubbles, and it actually creates, there's no chumming, but it creates a cloud. Wow, that water's clear. Look at those bubbles coming off it. So what's gonna happen now, you can see that bioflake, it's really sparkly. That's gonna create a cloud, and it's actually gonna go a little bit with the current down that way. So I'm gonna be fishing. I've got my electric and anchor mode, and I'm gonna be casting down, because I want that scent in the scale so you can actually see going down to track those fish, and hopefully I'll get another fish on. You know, when it comes to jigging, depending on the water depth, the size of jig head that you use is really important. I went from a 1/4 ounce down to an 1/8 ounce. So this is just a tiny, you can see how tiny that jig head is. And you can see that that knot that I've tied is like a loop knot. So that jig head can really swim around. It doesn't restrict it. But I find that if you use too heavy of a jig head, if you're in shallower water, then your jig is along the bottom too much. And sometimes when the fish goes to grab it, it's almost too heavy and they don't really inhale it. If you can get away with the lightest jig head and still touch bottom, because what I'm doing here is touching bottom, lifting up, touching bottom, lifting up. When a fish comes up to it, it's more free swimming, and when it goes to grab it, it can inhale it a lot better. So I find that you get a much better hook set. Nice, smallmouth. It's got some weight to it. Look at this. Whoa, what a jumper. Beautiful fish, clear water. He's almost ready to come in. See if I can lift him up here. Oh, this guy fell for that grubster again. And the tail is still on there. Look, he's hooked perfectly. You know, when you hook a fish anywhere like along the edge of the maxillary, that's actually a good spot because the tissue is quite tough. So this hook has a very tiny barb. It's one of the jig hooks from Lunker City, but it just catches on there really well. So you can see what's happened here. It's gone through once, and then it came out, and then it went through the tissue just on the side. This is where I got to be like a little there, like a doctor. Look, isn't that a nice smallie? I mean, when he picked that up, he just took off right away. Okay, beautiful baby. You know what? You are taking off. Look at it. You know, one of the nice practical features that I really like about this Raymarine unit and the maps that come with it, the sea map that I'm using, is something that can really aid you when you're going into an actual harbor. So if you look here on the left-hand side of the screen, there's a little camera image. See here it says chart objects, photo. I'm going to hit the photo and look. I can get a really good view. I've got a snapshot from the air of what the actual harbor looks like. Any bites?
Yep. Thank you.
Good. I like the way you're focusing. Now, is there any special technique that you use? Like, what do you think of when you're fishing? Yeah, I find that if I think about catching a fish, that I can feel my energy. So I try to think about other stuff, but I'm always ready to set the hook. He's got it. Give it. Set that hook. Get him. You're gonna get him. Get him. That's it. Haul him in. Oh, he brought. You know what? That was huge. Yeah. Here, high five. When we fish some of the big rivers, especially the Detroit River, we try to time it every year so that we're at the ICHA Handy Capable Fishing Derby. This is probably one of the largest events of its kind in North America. It's been running for almost 15 years. So besides the fishing that we do a couple of days before, we actually attend the event and I try to help as many people as possible. You know, I meet people every year from ages from about 5 to 10 years of age, right up to 40 to 60 years of age, that have different type of challenges. They could be in wheelchairs or need assistance by family members. And one of the things that's really nice about the event is that everything is provided for the people that come out to it. The fishing gear, the bait, the supervision, the life jackets. And they fish right in downtown Windsor, and there's all kinds of fish that they catch. Everything from small gobies right up to walleye, bass, sheepshead, and white bass as well. Besides that, they also get food, entertainment, all kinds of activities they can enjoy. And this year is kind of a highlight because the MNRNF for the province of Ontario has their trailer there with a fish fighting simulator and an interactive trailer where kids can go in and learn all about fishing. So it's a great event. If you're ever in the Windsor area, around the last of May or beginning of June, it's a great event to attend and at the same time to take advantage of the fishing in the big river. Nice smallmouth. They got to be one of the most exciting fish to get in fresh water. This guy socked it. He's nice and dark. I'm kind of horsing him a little bit strong because I've got that braid on because I want him to get his energy. Perfect. Easy release. When you do feel that strike, set the hook hard and keep the pressure on the fish. Don't give it any slack line and try to draw it out into a little bit deeper water. And if you can, don't go out into the current of the main river, because then you're also fighting the current in the fish. Once you get it into the protected water, you either net it or just lift the fish into the boat, take the hook out, release it carefully. I love catching big river bass because they're vibrant colors, everything from green to black with big stripes and bars in between. They fight hard, and because of the moving water, you can get them all season long. Nice, dark fish. Stay on, fish. You know, when you're fishing big rivers like this, you have to be patient. There's so much water to cover, and it's finding just the key areas where you get the right amount of structure and also the right flow. What a gorgeous fish. See if I can get that line. I have a net, but because I'm using a crankbait, if he gets off, it's okay. Look at, he's just barely hooked on there. That is a chunky fish. Isn't that a gorgeous fish? You know, we're getting like midday almost because we didn't start early this morning, and I thought I'd change from a silver to a very bright colored crankbait. I'm a firm believer that when fish are feeding, use natural colored baits. You know, why would a bass hit a bright colored lure like that? That's like a bright yellow, almost chartreuse. It's probably not feeding. It's probably out of other reasons, aggression, protection. So he struck that. And it's interesting that out of, 6 hooks on 2 trebles, I only have 1 hook just in the roof of the mouth. So actually, I don't even need my, my pliers. Isn't that nice, smallmouth?
Canadian Sportfishing has been brought to you in part by Rapala, premium fishing gear crafted from experience. Yamaha, conquer outdoors. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922. Bait to Go, the most versatile and portable bait container for anglers.
Smallmouth love moving water, but it's really hard to fish really fast flows. You can see here, I've been working this shoreline. We probably have a 2 to 3 mile an hour current, just out about 100 yards. So this is a little bit more gentle. With the wind blowing, I can pretty well just drift down naturally. And you can see this guy was feeding there right along the rocks. Beautiful smallie. He won't take long to take off. So when I hold him in the water, you can actually see the current flow. Beautiful. There he goes.